Hi guys, this is GA of the podcast Football by the Sea, and I'm just here to talk to you about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, well, it's a great way to start podcasting if you're really interested in it. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, your computer, or whatever setup you have. It works perfectly. On top of that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It could be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Download the free app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Yeah, did you see that said Ronaldo is on his way back to Manchester United to have like showdown talks or something like that?
No, I didn't see. No, I hadn't heard that. I just know that there was a lot of discussion about clubs whether they would be able to sign him or pay for him.
I don't think anyone can pay for him except if he decides to take like a pay cut. It's just,
and also, I think in the media he has kind of become a little bit of a villain for Man U, which, if we're being honest, like we said so many times, they wouldn't have reached the point where they reached in the season if he didn't score so many goals. But it kind of seems like he's being a little bit villainized, at least from my perspective. I don't know.
no, I agree. He has been villainized, and I think a lot of people have always liked to make him look like a villain because of the tantrums and stuff that he has on the field.
Yeah,
Maybe when someone doesn't pass to him or the person misses like an easy chance. So this right now is just people's excuse to like unload and say that. And in a way, to play devil's advocate, he still has a contract with Manchester United, and he's supposed to show up.
Yeah, no, he's supposed to show up, but
But at the same time, based on his legacy and the type of whatchamacallit, I guess the type of player he's been for United, who he was for them last year, and just his, like I said, his overall legacy, I think they should just like say, if you want to leave, go, bite the bullet, cancel his contract. They don't have to pay him the rest of it, and then he just goes so that he can go somewhere on a free. But I think this still the hindering bulk for a lot of teams is his
salary. Yeah,
I think United they're paying him like 500.
Yeah, most teams can't afford that. Even like right now, teams like PSG, Juventus, Bayern.
He's not going back to Juventus.
I'm just naming like the top teams in each league. They're not willing to spend that kind. I feel like a lot of teams, if you've noticed this past season or this transfer market season, they're becoming a lot more cautious on spending big money on players from teams that maybe just like a player that had one good season in a team. Teams are becoming a lot more cautious than a few years ago when the market was booming and it was an inflated market.
Oh yeah, I actually saw an article about that on ESPN. And before I get into that, welcome back to Football by the Sea. I'm your host G-Day.
And I'm John.
No, we were gone last week. Lots of stuff happening at home, but we're back now. It's been taken care of.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot more news this week.
Yeah. So as I was saying, there was an article on ESPN about teams not, being held to hostage, because apparently the one thing that we've noticed this transfer window is that a lot of free agents aren't getting picked up like they used to.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because they're asking for astronomical wages. Because, for example, a couple of years ago when Aaron Ramsey left Arsenal and went to Juventus, he was making about close to $400K a week.
Honestly, it was ridiculous when I saw it.
Yeah, and that was mainly because, they didn't pay a transfer fee. So I guess what would have gone to a transfer fee was going to his paycheck.
But it was still a ridiculous
amount because
and shifting him out, we have seen, has been such a huge hassle for them. He's still
a Juventus player right now, and where we're seeing the opposite right now is that because of COVID and a lot of things that have happened the last few years, teams are not being held hostage to free agents anymore. I mean, the one we could look at recently is Jesse Lingard.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he wanted close to like $200K to go to West Ham, and West Ham was like, no, we're not paying you that
now
amount of
when
money.
Declan Rice is
And
here.
then the next thing we heard is that he to MLS to sort of maybe
Find a
get,
club, right?
Yeah, to get a club, and I guess they also rejected wanting to pay him because Jesse Lingard is a good player, no doubt, but he is no way worth 200K. I don't even think he's worth like 150.
Yeah, I would say after his loan spell at West Ham, he could have possibly.
He could have, but he just spent a year sitting on the bench at United. And now we hear that he's gone. He just signed for Nottingham Forest for a season. Apparently, they're paying him close to what he wanted.
I mean, good for him. I think it was time he left United, to be very honest.
It's good for him. And then I've seen like debates over there in England about whether he went for the money or whether, and I see both sides. I think for Nottingham Forest, I can see the logic in why they went for it. He's a Premier League proven player who will definitely help them. And if they stay up, and it's going to be money well spent.
Yeah.
It's on Jesse's side that it sort of seems like he's not really being ambitious in that, he could have probably gone to maybe Newcastle, who's a team that's going up. They could have used someone like him.
I mean, but the question was Newcastle looking at a player like him. That's all.
No, the thing I heard is that Newcastle turned away when they heard what he wanted to be paid.
Right.
And apparently Newcastle, they're not going the route of just throwing money at the problem.
Yeah.
They're trying to be sensible. And we can see that in the purchases of players that they've made. West Ham was like, no. A bunch of pretty much all the top 6 teams will all say like, nah, bro.
And that's what happens when we would say average and or underperforming players are on big wages.
Yeah,
like we've seen it with a lot of. We've seen it with Arsenal. We've seen it with Man U. We've seen it with Chelsea.
Yeah, all the big teams have that issue. I mean, we even saw Paulo Dybala, who just left Juventus. A lot of teams weren't like fighting to get his signature. Right. It's just Roma that.
And he's a good player.
Yeah, and he's a good player, but same thing, wage demands and stuff. And teams is like, we can't afford this anymore.
Yeah, we're in a depressed market,
and it's like, if it means that we're losing out on you, we're losing out. So the whole financial thing has to be. I guess it was a bubble that was gonna burst at some point, and I think we're starting to see that.
When I remember in 2016 when Pogba went to back to Man U for about £89 million. I was like, that's a hell of a lot of money. That was like, I think, the biggest transfer that year. And then next thing we know, it was Neymar to PSG, and that was an even more astronomical amount of money. And then it kept getting high, and I was just like, these players are good, but this is so much money being spent by these clubs. And I always felt that at some point there would be a time when that would not be feasible anymore. Like there would be a time when clubs wouldn't just be paying. And we can see a lot of the clubs in, for example, Ligue 1, La Liga, and some in Serie A, because right now the Premier League is one of the only few leagues with more money than the other leagues relative. So, a lot of the prices that teams would normally pay for players coming from those leagues with maybe one good season under their belt, they're saying no, even in the Premier League now, that we don't want to play those astronomical prices. Maybe the biggest one so far has been Darwin Núñez to Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, and apart from just the transfer fee, it's also the wages as well. They don't want to pay astronomical wages because that makes it even harder to get rid of the player. That's why Arsenal couldn't get rid of a lot of players. And
that's why they had to cancel contracts.
And just like pay them out, which it looks like probably a bunch of teams will have to follow suit and do that as well for some of their players, or just wait until the contracts are done. It had to happen at some point.
And even speaking on that, I was going to touch on this last, but I did want to mention about an interview came out today with Edu, the technical director of Arsenal. And he spoke with SkySports and also The Athletic about the transfer policy And I think he was very candid. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that?
I saw a little bit of it where he was talking about Rafinha and at how he spoke to the agent, and the agent Deco told him that his heart is already set on Barcelona, and that he responded that, well, if anything changes, let me know.
Yeah, because right now in the transfer market, at least for the Premier League, Arsenal has spent the most money so far, at least. And he was asked about the current players that they've brought in, how he feels about them, and if the club could expect any more signings. And he was positive about that. He said, we're prepared for every situation. We still feel the transfer window is open. And he said they're prepared for every scenario. And they asked him about the transfers of like a player like Zinchenko, who just came in, which I think was a good bit of business to get for about, I think it was 30 or 32 million with about 2 million in add-ons reportedly. First of all, what did you think of that transfer?
I thought it was very good. He was one of the players that I would have liked to see at Arsenal as someone to provide cover for Tierney, and someone who could also, who's good enough to also go up into midfield, because Ateta would sometimes drop Xhaka into the
left
left
side
back position,
right.
But then this is someone who's actually good enough to play both positions.
Right.
So he provides cover in both positions, and I think, and we've all noticed, like, there's a pattern with a lot of the transfers. It's all versatile players.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme with a lot of the players that Arteta has been bringing in. Someone that can play one or two positions and cover in both areas very well. And I agree with you. I think it was a good transfer because the issue with Kieran Tierney wasn't his skill or his quality. It was always the amount of injuries he suffered in a season. And that has cost Arsenal, like last season when they had the chance to get into the Champions League. Those injuries have significantly cost Arsenal places. So I think it's good. And I think judging from the fact that Zinchenko played in the last friendly that they had, the Arsenal versus Chelsea friendly in Orlando, which, by the way, I was completely shocked. I know it's preseason, but I was still shocked by the 4-0 result. Like, I didn't expect Chelsea to be that limp in that game. But seeing Zinchenko start was a sign to me that he might be the one that starts the season over Tierney, because Tierney is still injured.
Yeah, I didn't see the first half, but I saw a little bit of the second half. And in the second half, Chelsea were a bit better. But when I went back and watched more of it, I was surprised at how the Chelsea team was making a lot of basic mistakes. So I started to think maybe they just are not up to the races, or something is like really, really off with this team.
Yeah,
right now, because they haven't had a great preseason. I think they lost to
I think Charlotte FC or something, but that was on penalties or something like that.
Yeah, but still they considered a last minute goal, and then it went to penalties, and then they lost in penalties. So it's and Thomas Tuchel was not a happy camper.
Yeah, he was very candid in his interview.
Not even from that, just from the game itself. Like, he was very animated on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there was one of the players that was complaining about something, and Tuchel literally did like the talking too much gesture to him and told him to like quiet and keep playing.
Yeah, I've seen Thomas.
The first goal, he was looking at, because it was poor defending by Chelsea for that first goal that they just left it open. Tuchel's face was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm like, and also the last goal itself that was scored by Lokonga, he was wide open, a free header, and it was like,
no defending.
I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm happy to see Arsenal score, but sometimes like I still have my footballing cap on, and whenever I see a defense just terribly open like that, it still hurts me, because the first time I thought was like, how on earth is he that open?
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh yeah, wait, it's Arsenal, we're scoring. But the first thing I thought was like, oh my god, how is he that open?
It's just
I was also surprised too because I didn't. It was like the 89th minute, so I didn't. I was like, okay, game's over, and the head. It was just a free header. There was no one that really was marking Lokonga there, and to me, it just felt like, Chelsea have brought in Sterling. They've brought in Koulibaly, which I thought was very good business. Two experienced players that have won things before, especially Sterling coming from the champions. And Koulibaly, a very, very experienced defender, even though he's like, I think 30 now or 31. Either way,
yeah, like 31.
he's still, experienced veteran. And I think they brought him on in the second half, and it didn't make that much of a difference. And Sterling,
they were better defensively in the second half, but they just still had some lapse in judgment.
The thing is, I know they have lost. They've lost Christensen. They've lost Rudiger. And there's still a few players that might go, but
yeah, I think that's where Tuchel had his problem, because in his press conference he said that he has players there who are thinking of being someone, because someone like Marcus Alonso wants to go to Barcelona. I think also Azpilicueta too. Barcelona is coming after him, and then he mentioned about Timo Werner saying that he wants to play more, and I think Thomas Tuchel has never really fancied Timo Werner as well. And so, yeah, there is, I think, what's his name, Todd Bowley needs to hire someone who's pretty good at transfer rather than him trying to do it himself.
They really do need.
I think he's wearing too many hats, and it's stretching him too thin, and so he's not handling.
Because Tuchel did say something about that. He said, I would like to just concentrate on coaching my players, but right now I'm having to worry about transfers and helping the owner with the transfers and everything like that. And I think, compared to some other teams where the coaches are more involved or the managers are more involved in the transfer policy, I don't know if Tuchel has really been that guy in his previous positions.
Tuchel has always been a head coach. He's never been a manager.
Right.
So, yeah, because when you're a manager, that's when you have a lot more on your plate. Being a head coach, you're just coaching the team, and I think that's what he enjoys. And there's a lot of other people that's what they enjoy as well.
Right. And you also have to remember the situation from a new regime. They lost, they let go of the previous transfer people, Czech and Marina. So it was always definitely going to be a bit of a adjustment period that they're going to go through. And also the fact that they're not going to, yes, they have money to spend, but they're not going to spend the same way that Abramovich would necessarily. But they have been spending money, and they're still going to spend more.
They're still going to spend. I think Chelsea's problem right now is Barcelona.
Oh, Barcelona is a thorn in their flesh right now.
Because it literally feels like, because I saw a meme of like someone taking a test, and then Barcelona is pretty much just trying to like copy their answers. It was like, it's like the entire policy is like, who does Chelsea want to sign? Let's go for him. I guess like with Rafinha, for example, it started with that was the Arsenal bid, but then Chelsea came out of nowhere, blew us out of the water, and Leeds agreed, but apparently Rafinha just ghosted all their calls.
Yeah, and going back real quick to that Edu Gaspar interview, he did mention about Arsenal's interest in Rafinha because he was asked, and he said people think we went in too deep about Rafinha because Rafinha was everywhere. He was, everyone was talking about Rafinha. He said it's fair. We did have some conversations with Deco. Deco is his Rafinha's agent, who was a former.
I mentioned that earlier that he spoke with the Deco guy, and he just told him straight up that.
Yeah, he said, "Can you explain the situation?" And then Deco told him that I'm not gonna lie to you. He wants Barcelona. That's his dream and everything. And then Edu said, "Okay, fine. If anything changes, let me know." And they left it.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier.
No, because I'm just bringing it back to talk about the Chelsea situation. In that it was that's why you were saying that they should get a director of football or someone specifically for transfers, because the owner trying to handle all those situations at once, they kept trying and trying again with Leeds for Rafinha.
I mean,
But
Leeds had accepted the bid.
yeah,
It was just down to Rafinha to
yeah,
go
but
there
I
and
don't know
finalize
if
stuff.
Chelsea had actually had that
conversation
with on the player side, not just the club side. So
yeah, you're right. That is a possibility. I know sometimes most teams don't go after a player unless they think that they have a shot or they've spoken with a player. But sometimes teams just go straight. I mean, was it last year when Aston Villa tried to sign Emil Smith Rowe for like 30 something?
yeah.
There is no way they would have gone to Emil Smith Rowe first because he just broke into the Arsenal first team. That they were pretty much just testing Arsenal's resolve.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes because there are lots of players sometimes who don't want to leave, but the team will be like, "Yo, we've accepted a bid for you. We would like you to stay, but we need the money, and you gotta go." And then sometimes players are like, "You know what? Okay, fine."
Yeah.
So it was probably that same case. And Leeds were probably looking at, "Oh, we could probably use this money to like replace him, get a couple more." Because Leeds, so they're also one of the top spenders this transfer window. So it was just Rafinha just like ghosted them, and then Barcelona came in and took it from under them.
Yeah, and now this whole Jules Koundé saga.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That apparently he wasn't supposed to go with Seville on their preseason tour because Chelsea had put in some bids, but then the rumor was that Barcelona told him to go on the tour.
It's just weird. It's like Chelsea had like discussions with him, I believe, previously. They had tried to get him last season, right?
Yeah, they've been trying to get him for a while.
Yeah, and with the old regime and everything, and they had already spoken with him, and I think they must have had some sort of agreement or something like that. And then more recently, Barcelona sort of like snuck into the picture, like you said, looking at someone's homework and trying to like cheat. So they came in and they're I don't know if they're going on the club side or the player side, and they're trying to find a way to talk with Koundé to see if they can.
I think they're probably doing the same thing they did with Rafinha, and Lewandowski, where like let the player be the one at because the whole Lewandowski thing was, I was quite surprised how that went down. How Lewandowski came out and just said like, he's done with Bayern. He wants to go to Barcelona. I was just thinking, why Barcelona of all places?
Yeah, I that's why I'm so surprised how Barcelona, like, I understand that they've got the injection of money from what they, selling the rights to some of their assets, but the fact that they're just amassing this new army,
it's not just that. Like, how come all these players? At first, I was thinking all these players want to go to Barcelona. Like, pretty much. It's like most of Chelsea's defense wants to go to Barcelona.
Yeah.
These players, I was like, and I get it. Barcelona is
not only that, a lot of these players are taking pay cuts. A lot of them are taking less money. Dembele took a pay cut to remain there. It's just the only one that seems a little bit shaky is the De Jong situation, because we still don't know how that's going to play out. Like he wants to stay. He's never had an intention of leaving.
He wants to stay, but I think, also if he leaves, he wants to be paid the money he owes.
Yeah, he's owed a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's about 17 million,
which is
pounds,
crazy.
Which is about 20 million euros, and I think the thing is Barcelona don't want to pay that, so they just want to sell him and stuff. And because the rumor was that I think they first accepted about 65 million from United, but then the amount was up to like I think maybe about 75, and then to use part of that to pay De Jong what he's owed. But then maybe they don't want to do that, and they just want him to forgive the whole thing. And
it's
I
all
saw
weird.
today that Gary Neville was saying that that De Jong should consider legal action against Barcelona if they're not gonna pay him.
I mean, the thing is, he is in a position where he can kind of hold them more hostage because, number one, they owe him money. He doesn't have to leave. I don't think he has a year left on his contract.
But I think that even if he leaves, they still have to
they still have to. And I think they want Manchester United to take some of that off their chest.
Yeah, they want them to take all of it off their chest. And I think they want, because I think if De Jong leaves, they can probably maybe defer it for a longer period or something. And maybe he sees that, that's not.
Yeah, nah. And also, he's still wants to stay, which
He
is the
wants to stay,
funny thing.
But then I'm seeing things that like, oh, they're trying to like get him out to like play him out of position because apparently, I think in their game against in one of their preseason games, they decided to play him in defense rather than midfield where he's supposed to be. I don't know if that's true.
I mean, it's really just interesting how I don't know what Xavi is doing over there, but I think they've just decided that they're not going to be the butt of anyone's jokes anymore. That whatever they have, even if they have to sell their soul, which I feel is kind of what they did with those assets that they.
Well, they had to because the previous regime.
Yeah, they ruined everything.
Royally, messed things up.
Yeah, I mean they really did mess, and they did tarnish the reputation of the club a bit. So I think Barcelona just wants to make sure that it will never be that way or look that way again. So that's why they're doing all this stuff. But I mean, listen, they had a friendly with Real Madrid, an El Clasico, but if it's El Clasico, it's never a friendly.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
and they won 1-0, I think.
Yeah,
it was Rafinha goal.
Yeah, Rafinha scored the only goal. I mean, it's still preseason, and I think I don't think the Real Madrid players. I mean, they had chances as well, so it's a game that could have gone anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a preseason El Clasico. I mean, honestly, all the new players and stuff, it did make me look forward to a Clasico for the season, and to see how they do. But yeah, it's still just pretty crazy how they're just buying all these players. Because earlier in the window, when they got, was it Christensen and I can't remember the other guy, they couldn't register them yet.
Yeah, I think it was Frank Kessie or something.
Because they were still in the red with the La Liga financial rules. But I guess with what they've sold, they've been able to get that in, and then they're still going for more.
Yeah, that's what they're like I said, they're amassing an arm. They're just I think they're just overhauling the entire team. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works. It better work for them, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is, they do have quality, experienced players that they brought in now. I think
it's definitely going to work because when they signed Lewandowski, they were selling so many Lewandowski shirts.
Yeah, they ran out of the W's.
Yeah, they said they ran out of W's. I was like,
Lewandowski.
So yeah, it does have its commercial benefits as well.
Yeah, but part of those commercial benefits are going to some private firms now, and those percentages, as those assets continue to increase, they're paying out more money. So that's the downside side of, what they did to get that injection.
Yeah, but then the thing is Barcelona is not going to fold up.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Even if they went into more debt, the Catalonia government or something will probably step in to help and keep them afloat. They were never they can afford that, where we see maybe a lot of smaller teams can do that. I think was it Bolton that almost went into administration a few seasons ago, that someone had to come in to help them, and some other teams have gone into that because they don't have that same stature or financial backing to save them. I mean, pretty much what was happening to Barcelona was what happened to Leeds back in the day, when they just bought all these players and stuff, but then it didn't work out, and then they got relegated.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Just circling back real quick to that Edu interview. He said he was very candid about moving on from players and selling players. And what he said was that about a player's ambition. Let me just read some of the quotes here.
You really like that interview?
No, because a few seasons ago, a lot of fans were asking for transparency. Not just with the transfer business, they wanted the club to be able to speak out more and tell the fans. So I think it's a good sign when the technical director is able to give us information that we can break down and see how they're going about the business and what they feel is the what are the targets for the club and the season. So I thought he said some really interesting things. So they asked him when he began implementing the current strategy that the club is on, and he said, with all due respect, it started when they decided to change Unai Emery as the manager. That's when he first went to the board and explained the reasons why they wanted to change and the reasons that they wanted to go in a different direction and to have a clear plan, like, starting with, I know a lot of people, the youth project sounds like a toxic word now, but that's what they've been doing. And then they also asked him why they chose Mikel Arteta, and they said it was the plan that he had, his style, his characteristics, and his technicality. And Edu said that he gave the board a 5-year plan. And he said 2022 to 2023 will be the season we're going to be much better, which is this season. So let's see if that actually comes to fruition. So yeah, they asked him about cleaning the squad, and he said there are 3 elements in my role. I have to be really prepared to be strong on the message to the players, and these were very important that I noticed. He said when the player is 26 plus on a big salary and he's not performing, he's killing you. That kind of player, because you don't have a valuation to sell the player. The player is comfortable. Arsenal, London, beautiful, everything is fantastic, and has a good salary. How do you move this player? And for seasons, we have been seeing this, like, for example, with the Ozil situation, with the Aubameyang situation, and the previous regime putting average to decent players on really, really high wages that we are seeing like is still affecting us with a few of the players that are left from those old regimes. He said, so how many players with that kind of characteristics did we have in the past? 80% of the squad. I don't think most clubs will come out and actually say this, but he said 80% of the squad. That's why he said when he made the plan, it's not easy to clean the squad straight away because most of the players were on big, long contracts. So he said even having to cancel the contracts, as painful as it is, he would do that just because sometimes it's not easy to get a fee for those players that are on high wages. And like we saw what happened with Aubameyang. But the only problem with that is that now when we're trying to move on players like Bellerin and we're trying to move on Torreira and other players like that, the clubs that we want to sell them to are expecting us to now just cancel those contracts. So it kind of has set a bit of a precedent, which is something that I think they have to put their foot down on. But
they have to put their foot down because I don't think those players are exactly like how the Ozil and Aubameyang thing was, because someone like Bellerin actually had a good loan spell. And when the player has a good loan spell, that looks better for the selling club.
Yeah.
Same thing with Torreira. It's pretty much those clubs unwilling to fork up the price because either they don't have the money or, like you said, they're hoping.
Yeah, they're hoping that
to sort
they
of
will do the same thing.
Arsenal.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, the club would have to put their foot down and make sure people understand that that's not something that, because that's not a sustainable model. I remember was it 2021 that we sold Willock? A lot of people didn't want him to leave, but that now looking at that was a good deal.
It was a good deal. It was based off him having
a good loan spell.
A good loan spell, and then you sell a player, which is the normal case. It's just these teams are just refusing to pay up the money.
Right.
I mean, because even Bellerin said that he would take a pay cut to go there. It's just the team who are refusing to pay. I think, was it like 7 or 8 million? Arsenal is asking, and they're being that cheap.
Yeah, it was. It was.
And then the Torreira one is just something else entirely.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the meat of the interview that I wanted to point out. There's a lot more that was said, and you guys can go check it out on The Athletic or on the other one on Sky Sports. What other news did we have happen recently?
Oh, well, it's still mainly transfers and that we have to deal with. Like we mentioned, the Ronaldo stuff, and United still not getting all the players that they want. There's that, and well, we mentioned the we mentioned the biggest things. The one thing that I see a lot of people talking about right now is it's sort of an interesting debate. Some people are like they don't like it when teams from the same league play each other in preseason. They're like, couldn't it have like a detrimental effect if one player puts in a tackle that doesn't help? For example, last season when I think Arsenal and Tottenham played each other in the preseason,
And then Thomas Partey got injured.
yeah, I think it was Eric Dyer put in a tackle, and then Arsenal lost Thomas Partey for like a couple of months. And I was like, because it's never really a friendly between
No, yeah.
these teams, and so they're like, or that wouldn't it make more sense to just play another team? But then the counter argument is that, well, international fans don't get to see these teams play each other in person, and that you make more money if you do like for example, I think they like the Manchester United versus Liverpool game will make more money than a Manchester United versus one of the local teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
So,
And
where do you stand on that?
I think I understand the idea of not wanting players to get injured. And if you look at the level in preseason, it's never to the level of a normal league game anyway. Even though some of the preseason games I've seen, some of those like local teams abroad have been trying to really go ham. Like some of the MLS teams have been putting in like crazy tackles, and I know they're in the middle of their season, but it's a bit like
I mean, it's not easy to just turn that off if you're in the middle of the season.
yeah, I get that, but then that also comes from their managers telling them to get stuck in because for a lot of these international teams that they're playing in preseason, this is a huge game for them. They don't usually get to play some of the biggest clubs in the world and things like that. So they, in a way, they're trying to prove something for some of those players. At the same time, though, when it comes to playing teams with this in the same league or playing other big teams that you're going to compete against in the season, I don't think that's a problem. I think it's a good thing to kind of see where both teams are and what areas need to be improved. That's the entire point of preseason, like to see where it needs to be improved. I do sometimes fear the thought of players getting injured in preseason because it just feels unnecessary. So, but I wouldn't say that they should stop playing those big teams. And again, the commercial revenue, and also just like for fans, don't get to see those. People don't get to see that, like, so that's the whole point of going to different countries and,
Yeah, no, I mean I get both sides, but I think the commercial aspect is always going to win because I think I read somewhere that Arsenal made between $7 to $8 million dollars just from this 1 week.
Wow.
That they came for.
I mean, when you're
yeah.
charging fans $5.99 to watch games online.
Not even for.
No, I'm not saying. I'm
that,
also just pointing that out.
They also launched the new kit, which I think was.
Oh yeah, the new kit sold out.
Yeah,
like
they said it's their highest selling new kit.
Also for Adidas, it was like their highest selling.
So it said there was that, and also, and just is that so I understand why teams want to do it.
Yeah, and then they also had the launch in Orlando with the shout out to that guy Aston Mack, and his story, and shout out to Arsenal using him to launch the kit because it was a very interesting story of how he got noticed by the club during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 wearing an Arsenal top and his story. So they're also finding ways to connect with fans international. So like I understand the commercial side of it too. Like it's, but there's also a passion side and those people that don't get to see the fan. Like if you watch all those preseason vlogs from different fan channels, the people are so happy that they get to see their team play and everything. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. So yeah, any other news did we have?
No, I don't really have anything. It's just I think there's just a few more preseason games, and then the league starts next week.
Next
Friday.
week? Jeez.
Yeah. I know it's
Hey.
it's insane how the season's already here. I think the community shield is this weekend.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
That will be City versus. I mean, a lot of people call it a friendly. Say it's considered a friendly, even though the Premier League website listed it as a friendly.
It's not a friendly.
But the thing is that
it's not a friendly.
When you count trophies,
it's an actual trophy. Teams count that trophy
as a trophy. So I think it's just something that whoever loses just says it's not a real trophy.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, because you won a trophy to play that game. You won a real trophy to play that game.
That's like saying that the UEFA Super Cup is not a trophy.
Yeah. So, or the Club World Cup, I guess. But yeah, if that's it, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I think this episode will be available on YouTube, or it should be available on YouTube.
Yes, we're back to uploading to YouTube, so you'll have that link when it's ready.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly it. The season is about to start, and we're getting to the last couple weeks of the transfer window. So I'm really curious to see those kinds of deals that open up and how teams are going to, whatever opportunities arise and what's going to happen. So, I think it's getting more exciting.
Deadline day should be even more interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Because I think we have even more games before deadline day. So, I think we'll have about 4 game days before. I think usually it's about 2 game days we have before the transfer window closes, but now we'll see what mad dashes happen.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it, guys.
Yes, thank you once again for joining us. We'll be back next week with everything that happens. I guess we'll have the community show to talk about, and we'll see if Chelsea will finally sign players and if Barcelona will keep stealing them.
All right, guys. I'm John. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, G-Day, and bye.